In 2026, the World Cup expands to 48 teams playing 104 matches. It is the most crowded field in the history of the sport. But despite that massive expansion, the raw data, the bookmakers, and the predictive AI models have all reached the exact same rigid consensus. This checklist shows 48 national flags, but as the math filters out the noise, only 5 remain illuminated. Only France, Spain, Argentina, Portugal, and Brazil possess the infrastructure and talent depth required to actually lift the trophy in New York. On paper, every single one of these 5 squads looks like an invincible juggernaut capable of dominating any opponent. But winning a modern 6-week World Cup demands ruthless resource management and the ability to survive extreme pressure. A talented starting 11 is simply not enough. To figure out which of those 5 will survive, you have to understand the central dilemma of tournament football. Every nation is forced to choose between 2 opposing roster-building philosophies. This scale outlines the choice. Systemic depth builds a structured pyramid, providing a massive safety net, but risks tactical rigidity. On the opposite side, superstar reliance gives a limitless ceiling, but leaves the squad vulnerable to a single injury or bad form. If you want to accurately predict the winner, you have to decide which of these 2 vulnerabilities you are willing to accept. We are going to map out exactly where each of the 5 elite teams falls on this risk spectrum, giving you an objective framework to make your pick. Let's start with the safest floors in the tournament. France enters 2026 as the ultimate depth juggernaut. This image shows Kylian Mbappé, but his real advantage is the squad behind him. France's unmatched roster depth creates extreme rotational flexibility, making them highly resistant to single-player injuries. Manager Didier Deschamps has top-tier options at every position. The trade-off for that safety is their tactical setup. Deschamps utilizes a highly conservative system that prioritizes defensive solidity over attacking fluidity, which often leaves them looking offensively flat for long stretches. Because of that functional approach, when the system inevitably stalls out, they are entirely reliant on Mbappé to generate individual moments of brilliance to bail them out. Then you have Spain, operating as the tournament's tactical purists. Here is Rodri, the engine of Spain's midfield. They run a suffocating, possession-heavy system dictated by elite holding midfielders who control the game's tempo and completely exhaust opposing defenses. This is Lamine Yamal, providing the crucial counterweight to that slow possession. Spain pairs their midfield control with lightning-quick direct pace on the wings from young superstars. But look closely at this celebrating squad. Noticeably absent is a traditional number 9. Operating with a false 9 makes it incredibly difficult for Spain to score in desperation moments if they fall behind late in a knockout match. Backing France or Spain practically guarantees a deep run. You just have to accept the risk of tactical paralysis when they face a deficit their rigid systems aren't designed to overcome. On the other end of the spectrum are the emotional bets. Teams relying on historical momentum and aging legends, Argentina and Portugal. This iconic shot of Messi holding the trophy in 2022 is exactly what Argentina is trying to replicate. They are betting heavily on their existing championship chemistry and a 38-year-old Messi. That puts the burden squarely on Lionel Scaloni, seen here in the dugout. Argentina's success hinges entirely on his ability to perfectly manage his aging star's minutes to keep him sharp for the moments that matter. Their glaring trade-off is physical. Fielding an older, slower core over 6 weeks presents a massive vulnerability against younger, high-energy midfields in the late stages of the tournament. Portugal presents a similar profile, but with a crucial difference. This squad is actively transitioning away from building solely around a 41-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo. Pictured here is Bruno Fernandes driving the ball forward. He represents Portugal's prime-age midfield engine, which now operates independently. Because of this core, Portugal fields arguably the highest-ceiling starting lineup in the tournament. Their trade-off is psychological. Portugal has a documented history of mental fragility in knockout stages, and they will be playing under the suffocating global media pressure of Ronaldo's final World Cup. Investing in Argentina or Portugal offers the highest emotional payoff, but you have to accept the extreme risk of physical or psychological collapse when the pressure ultimately peaks. We've covered structure and we've covered emotion. This vintage lineup represents Brazil. historically the kings of South American offensive flair. Today, they are the tournament's unique outlier, attempting to merge strict European systems with that inherent flair. To do this, they hired a European supermanager, Carlo Ancelotti. His objective is to finally instill rigid defensive discipline into a football culture that has always prioritized offense. As a result, players like Vinicius Jr., shown here celebrating, can operate with terrifying transition pace. This new structure allows their elite-wide attackers to flourish without leaving the backline completely exposed. But Brazil still has a structural trade-off. Their wing-back positions remain highly suspect, and their overall roster balance relies heavily on Neymar. If their central playmaker is compromised by injury, the entire system wobbles. Add to that the immense national pressure from fans, seen here in yellow and green. For Brazil, football is a national identity, and that expectation acts as a heavy, double-edged sword for the squad. Brazil is the ultimate tactical gamble. They finally have the rigorous coaching structure required to win, but they lack the creative depth to survive if their primary stars fail to deliver. This quadrant chart maps these teams to your prediction philosophy. It plots systemic against superstar reliance vertically and squad depth horizontally. France and Spain cluster safely top right. Argentina and Portugal live in high volatility bottom left. And dead center sits Brazil, balancing structure with flair. Predicting a winner isn't about blindly guessing. It is about objectively identifying which of these parameters matches your personal tolerance for risk. Let's distill this into the 2026 prediction matrix. Path 1 is for the bracket optimizer. Choose France or Spain for the safest floor. Path 2 is the narrative investor. Choose Argentina or Portugal for emotional momentum. Path 3 is the tactical purist. Choose Brazil. The data tells us one thing clearly. Do not pick a team simply because they feel the best individual player in the world. When the final whistle blows in July, the winner won't be the team with zero weaknesses. It will simply be the team whose fatal flaws are the easiest to hide.